scoops.
Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. I've lost Lee. No, here he is. Here he is. just as we were going on there, I've lost you. But my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Double Scoops. This is episode number 6 and I'm joined by Drum Dums, aka Lee. This way. How you doing, Lee?
I'm good, man. It's so nice to be here. And it feels like it's been so long since we streamed together. So we get to talk about Halloween. How cool is that?
Exactly, yeah, and it's October, so it's only fitting that we discuss Halloween. But yeah, it's been about 2 years, maybe. In fact, I think it was it not before Halloween Ends? I'm sure it was.
Oh yeah, it was definitely before
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think Halloween Kills. We done a Hallow stream with the guys.
Yeah.
We tried to arrange a Halloween Ends one, and there was always one or two of us that couldn't make it, and then we just never done it, and that was it.
Well, yeah, so, when you're trying to wrangle, what is it, 6 of us total?
Yeah,
that's a lot of schedules and it's almost a miracle when we are able to align our schedules. But it's worth it once we do finally. And then sometimes the time passes, and so I just kind of leave it be.
Yeah,
and I'm sure we're going to get some kind of crazy news for Halloween within the next year or so. And I'm all about timing, and I don't want to just do it just to do it for the clicks. I want to do it because we're all excited, right?
Yeah. We'll have something to talk about. And obviously it doesn't help that I am halfway around the world. So it's hard for me to try and get a time that suits you guys as well, so it's quite tough. But yeah, we'll certainly get one done, hopefully, even if and when the next Halloween either movie or TV show actually starts happening, then we'll have more news to talk about. It'll be more exciting, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll go into the chat first of all. I know that some guys are still coming into the chat. We'll say hello to people who are here. We've got David Effrey. Hey, boys. Looking forward to this one. Yeah,
Davey.
I had Davey on last night for episode 5.
I saw that. Nice.
Yeah, we're talking about Halloween 4. But tonight, guys, if you don't know, we're talking about Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. We'll get David James. How you doing, David? We've got Thomas is in the house. Hey, Thomas. We've got Darren from the Slaughtered Lamb evening. How you doing, Darren? David says, 2 of my biggest influences and inspirations right here on the same stream. Hell yeah. Thanks very much, Davey. That's very nice of you.
Very nice.
Anthwood Movie Mania says, hey guys, ultimate crossover happening now. It's the ultimate crossover.
I'm blessed.
Flesh Suit Man says, whoa, it's Dee. That means Drum Dums. Hiya, guys.
Yeah.
Well, here's one, just in case people don't know. David James asked, please explain the Double Scoops podcast name. Feels like a reference to something I should know.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on, David. Hold on. Here we go. You ready?
Double Scoops. Double Scoops.
There you go.
You get it now?
In the past. And you beat me to it. That's a great name for a podcast.
Yes, I've always thought about that. I actually thought about that being my channel name at some point. But I felt like it would be maybe a little bit too obscure for people, so I kind of didn't do it. So it's kind of spin-off of Halloween 4. But
you have to be a massive Halloween fan to know what that means, I think. When you say that's not just like a casual Halloween fan would know that. I don't think so.
No, even some Halloween fans don't know it as well. Like, I know people who love Halloween, and I say I do a segment on my channel called Double Scoops, and they're like, what does that mean? I'm like Double Scoops, Halloween 4? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, I will.
Yep. So those are my favorite types of t-shirts, though. The ones that have the obscure reference instead of Jaws,
Yeah.
I like for somebody to look at the shirt and then like stop and kind of try to decipher it.
Yeah, that's what I love as well. I always wear my Stephen King Rules t-shirt from the Monster Squad. And sometimes if I wear them to cons, people will say, oh, you love Stephen King. I'm like, well, I do, but it's nothing to do with him. So it just kind of whoop over the head.
Didn't you send me the Tom Atkins Rules shirt? Or was that somebody else?
No, I didn't know.
It was somebody else? Okay, yeah. Somebody sent me a Tom Atkins Rules shirt, and it's red, and it looks like the Stephen King Rules shirt. So
yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, they're cool. Eli's here. What's up, Barry Lee in chat?
What's up, Eli?
And Gory Tiger, what's up? So we've got a few people in the chat.
GT.
So before we get into Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, what have you been up to lately, Lee, on your channel, and any horror movies that you've watched this month because it is spooky season? Any that you're about to watch that looks interesting?
Well, I'm on call this week, but I always have like a buddy that can help me out, and I have a press screening for Smile 2 on Tuesday night, so I'm hoping I can make that. But man, yeah, this year for horror, it's just like it seems like every week something new comes out. Like Terrifier 3 just came out. It's just boom, 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 and it's hard to keep up with it all. There's just so many great ones coming out this year. So I think my schedule on YouTube has been mostly focused on new releases, and I try to fit in some catalog titles. Like I just did the Salem's Lot remake, and in that
seen that one.
review, I stated, "Hey guys, I was honest. I was like, catalog reviews are going to get probably a fourth of what my new release. But if you guys really, really want me to do the original, then I'll do it." And sure enough, in the comments, everybody was like, "Please, please, please!" And sometimes I guess it pays off because that catalog review is like past 4,000 views right now, which is pretty good for a catalog review.
Yeah, there you go. That's fantastic.
So, most importantly, though, it's still really fun. You know, after 9 years, I'm still having a blast, and I think that's because of all the changes that YouTube goes through and how you have to. Some people, they can't hack it. You know, it's tough to like you. You just had kind of a rough run, and I can relate to that because I've been in your shoes before, and you and me both know that it's a long game. And you're going to have your hills and valleys, and sure enough, your channel's doing just fine now. You know, and I think that's one thing that newer channels don't realize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see people come and go, like people coming. There's been some fantastic channels that came out around about the same time as us, and they weren't hitting the ground running, so they would just quit. I'm like, don't quit. Your channel is fantastic. It could take a month to blow up. It could take a year. It could take 10 years. But if you do what you love, then you're in it for the long run. And if it pays off, it pays off. If it doesn't, you're still doing what you love. And so that's why I'll always go back to the older channels and stick with them, because they've done it for a long time. Whether they're massive or not, it's always nice to see how people are getting on from the beginning till now. So it's really good. Going into horror for this year, Lee, 6 of my top 10 movies this year are horror, which is probably a first, because usually around about this time I'll have maybe 2 or 3 horror movies in my top 10 movies of the year. But horror is so strong this year. It's amazing to see. I just watched The Substance last night. Have you seen The Substance?
Fantastic. Oh my God, yeah. That's my favorite movie of the year.
Oh, is it? Right.
Well, it is. It's number one.
Oh, there you go. It's in my top 5.
I would wager that nothing's going to top it. That movie hit me hard. I was like, yes, that's what I've been looking for.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think because I watched it so late, I didn't do a movie review for it. So I've done a ending explained video that will be out in a couple of days' time. I've got that scheduled. But yeah, that's some film, really good film. But I've not got anything else planned. I've got the house to myself for a week, and then I'm off to Manchester for a convention called For the Love of Horror. And like Darren from the Slaughtered Lamb is going to be there, and a few other guests will be there. So it'll be cool to catch up with people. But kind of off the subject of horror, how is it in your area just now, Lee, with the weather?
It's luckily where I'm at. It's hard, but funny enough, I live in a subdivision, and the house to the left of me and the house to the right of me both had trees completely knocked over, like big trees completely knocked over. But my tree, we all have one tree in front of our house. My tree stayed. It was fine. So just a lot of debris in my area. I'm probably like 2 hours away from Tampa, and Tampa got hit really hard from what I've seen. So my heart goes out to those that are living in Tampa, because they got hit pretty rough. It's tough. But even in Tampa, you have some people that they're dug in and they won't leave, Yeah. And part of me can't blame them, because if you don't evacuate in a certain amount of time, then A, it's going to be bumper to bumper traffic. And then B, you're going to run out of gas, because the gas stations are, they're out of gas. Like even still right now, I had to go looking for gas. Like I have 2 gas stations that are right down the road from me, and I can go either way. Both of them, they still are out of gas. So I had to go a little farther, and I found one that, let's say they had like 6 pumps and only one of the pumps had gas. So there was like a line of cars. But yeah, but you know, that's hurricane life for you.
Just your luck. I've got family. My family live in Port Richey. I don't know how far that is from you guys, but I don't even know if they're affected or not. They haven't said there's any issues, but that's where they live, Port Richey.
Huh. I think in Florida, you're by Milton, you're going to be affected in some fashion. It pretty much covered the entire state, you know. And if you didn't get hit too hard, then you got lucky. Because I remember I have a family text, as a lot of us do. My wife and my daughter and my son, we talk back and forth. And when that thing was coming, man, my kids, they were freaking out, and they were. My daughter was like, "This is like the biggest freaking hurricane. This is going to be really bad." And I was like, "Honey, you just have to calm down, okay?"
Yeah.
I've been through so many hurricanes before, and they can be scary. They can definitely be scary, but sometimes you just got to brace yourself and hope for the best. You know?
Yeah, I hope all goes well and it just passes and there's no more issues, because I've seen some videos online and it's pretty bad, but hopefully everyone's safe and hopefully you guys stay safe.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, this was my idea to you, Lee, because over the years since I've known you, you've been quite a champion for The Curse of Michael Myers. So I think what I like to do first is talk about our memories of seeing a specific Halloween film for the first time. So do you remember, I don't even know if you went to the cinema to see it, did you? Was that the first time you saw it? You did, right? Okay. How did that come about then? And how did you feel when you first watched it at the cinema?
Well, if I trace it back, the first one I saw in the theater was 4. I was 15, and it was just that's probably my favorite Halloween experience, like theater experience, just packed audience. Everybody was right there with you, freaking out. The very last scene, that crazy twist, I just heard a collective gasp. I still remember to this day. So that's the movie that made me like you, like the biggest Halloween fan. I thought I was the biggest Halloween fan in the world. I didn't think there was anybody that was a bigger fan than me until I came on YouTube, of course. But I from that moment, I was like, I will be there day one in the theater, every Halloween movie, and I'll hope that we get a new Halloween movie every few years. And so so far I've kept to that. But the interesting thing about 6 was it was 89 to 95, so 6 years after. And I just remember that lull, and every year I would like constantly look at like Fangoria, and and the internet was in its early stages at this time, but I would check, like message boards and whatnot. Just, where's the Halloween news? I just was constantly wait. And then finally, here comes Halloween 6, and it wasn't that packed. I'm sure that's no shock. I think say it was about half full, but the movie it did something to me. I felt like it was different than everything that had come before, but it's still really 6 is kind of the closing chapter of those first 6 movies, because H2O, as we know, it cleaned out the clutter, right? Yeah. And I'll be the first to admit that whole Thorn thing, even as much as I love it, I don't think they finalized it story-wise. I think I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with some of the stuff, but I think I just love the imagery that we had in Halloween 6. And I like question marks in movies because I like to kind of form my own, like, I guess, story in my own head. Like, this is what I think Halloween, like, to give you an example, at the very end, when you hear that scream from Loomis, and you just see the mask and the syringe, I think everybody has their own story in their mind of what actually transpired. And in my own mind, and it's probably not even the truth, but I like to think of it as Myers, as a way of respect, took his mask off before he killed Loomis. He knew that this was it. He knew that he was going to kill Loomis, but somehow there was just a little inkling of respect, because this is the only person that really ever tried to reach Myers. And so that's what, in my mind, but I like that it's not really spelled out, And I know some people, they love movies that just, they spell out everything beat by beat by beat. This is exactly what it is. They tie it up in a nice bow and you can't really debate it or anything. I like movies where I can debate them. And so, warts and all, I've always loved Halloween 6 for that reason. And I think I'm kind of like you with H2O, and that's why I've always respected you, because H2O takes a lot of shit, just like Halloween 6 takes a lot of shit. Both those movies, I'd say, take about the same amount of shit for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I love that you are just so like, this is my movie. This is, you can never, even though I know the things that people don't like about H2O, speaking for you, this is the hill that I'm going to die on. And that's the way I am about Halloween 6. So I've always respected you for that. I always thought that was just such, I love a fan, you know, that's not like trying to be a dick about it. I just love this movie, and I respect that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to speak to you about this, because I feel like you do feel the same way about 6 as I do about H2O. I know H2O has its problems, and I know what problems people have with H2O. Some of those problems I would agree with, some of them I see as positives, and that's the same with you. Like with Halloween 6, there's some things that I just don't like, but I can understand why you do, because you're not just saying I like it, shut up. You're saying I like it because, and that's why we respect an opinion, because you're able to back that up as to why you love it. And obviously you went to see it at the cinema. And a question I've got for you is, if you remember, the end of Curse of Michael Myers at the cinema, did it have like a big impact with the audience, or as much as it did with Halloween 4's ending?
No,
Like with
I
just a mask?
remember just kind of silence. And then everybody, because I think there was a little bit of sadness there, because we all knew that Donald Pleasance was
Yeah, of
gone.
course. Yeah.
And that nice little moment where, you know, you got Tommy telling him, come go with us. And he's like, I have some business I need to attend to here. And I think from that moment on, there was just this kind of like air of sadness throughout. And I think that carried forward past the credits when people left. Whereas with H2O, I mean, oh my God, I was seeing that in the theater, and she chops his head off. And I remember just like the audience just erupted, you know, that it was like a crowd pleasing type of ending. Whereas Curse was more of just a dark type of ending, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one reason why I like Curse too, is because it might be the most evil Halloween movie. And that I don't know, that just kind of connects with me.
It was certainly one of the most brutal, probably the most brutal at that time anyway, before Rob Zombie came along. But
Yeah.
my memories of Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, are I didn't see it at the cinema. I was too young. And in fact, it didn't even come out in the cinema in the UK, I don't think. And I saw The Curse of Michael Myers after Halloween H2O. Now, I had seen the first two Halloween movies before H2O, but after seeing Halloween H2O, it ignited my interest in the franchise yet again. So I would go back and look out Halloween 4, 5, and 6. So seeing Halloween 4 and 5 again, I did see them before H2O, but I didn't really remember them too much. But I had not seen Curse before H2O. So my expectations were different, because after seeing H2O, a grounded Halloween movie, I went into Curse hoping for the same thing. And when I didn't get that, I saw this more supernatural Halloween film, and I thought, oh, I didn't like that at all. So my memory of Curse of Michael Myers was always I didn't like it. But because I didn't like it, it then took away all the positives that I did have for it. Watching it now, I see more positives with Curse than I did before. Like Michael Myers, like if you want a brutal Michael Myers and a menacing looking Michael Myers, then the Curse is there. The kills were brutal. Some of the gore in the film that was cut out for the producer's cut was also pretty brutal as well. The theme, the atmosphere, the color palette of The Curse of Michael Myers, it was all there. It was just, had it not had the Thorn, the Man in Black, the cult, etc., I think this would be a top tier Halloween movie. But I think the supernatural elements took me way out of the film. So seeing it for the first time, I was just like, oh, it's not the Halloween movie for me, you know. Um, Are you? Can you easily just kind of block that out, knowing that it's not a grounded Halloween film? It's more like a Friday the 13th Halloween film.
Yeah, I think that's what I prefer about the franchise. I do like that supernatural element, although I don't like them to spell out everything, which I kind of alluded to before. But I like that there will be certain moments in the franchise where you'll have that question like, oh, wait, maybe maybe they're trying to lean on the fact that he's not human. And then there'll be other movies like, say, H2O, or even the first movie, where if you came out of that movie thinking, oh, this is just a man, right? That's something that's believable. But I think that's one of the great things about this franchise, is that there's something for everybody. If you want a hulking type of Myers, you have Six and Kills. If you want a more grounded type of Myers, you have the first movie in H2O. If you want the sibling angle, that's there. If you want something that's just really out of left field, you have Halloween Ends, you have Halloween 3. And I would say, as far as consistency goes with this franchise, as far as talking about quality, I think just about all the movies have something in them that garners kind of a cult fan base. As bad as 5 is, I know people that they freaking love 5 with all their freaking heart because of how different. Some people call it the Giallo movie, right? And I think that's one thing I love about Halloween more than any other franchise. There's just, and it brings out anger in people. Like, arguably, no other franchise brings out anger like Halloween. I don't know what it is. I don't know if people that get so angry that you like a certain movie, what do they want? Do they want a franchise that just sticks with one formula for 13 movies? That's so. Anytime, like, I hate Resurrection. I can't stand Resurrection. I don't care if you love Resurrection. And I know a lot of people that they, Tony Crespo, a good friend of mine, he loves Resurrection to death. He's all about Busta Rhymes in that movie. I freaking love that. I think that's the coolest. I would never go freaking stalking his socials and tell him that, oh, you love Resurrection, I can't take you seriously. But that's the internet. You're going to get that. But I don't really find that with any other franchise. Maybe single one-off movies you'll get that, but an entire franchise, I don't see it. Maybe you do see it. I don't know.
No, I'm the same as you. I see it, like, before the David Gordon Green trilogy came around, I thought it was not too bad. But I think with with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, after those movies came out, I think that's when it got a little bit topsy-turvy, because there was people who loved those films and people who didn't like those films. So if you hated them, then people would jump on your back. If you loved them, then people would jump on your back. You weren't allowed to think them. Yeah, you also weren't allowed to think they were okay. You either had to say they were the best movie ever or the worst movie ever. And if you didn't, you're strange. So yeah, I thought social media when it comes to the Halloween franchise now is completely nuts. It's up there with the Star Wars social media now. That's how bad it is, but it's a shame.
Ironically, I've been called a gatekeeper. Some people mistake passion for a movie as gatekeeping, and I can tell you the difference right now. Passion is, I like this movie because of this, this, and this, and I just wanted to profess that to the public. I'm not calling anybody an idiot for not liking this movie for this, this, and this. So that's not gatekeeping. Gatekeeping is when you say, I like this movie and you are absolutely an idiot and you are wrong if you don't like this movie. But for some reason, people will call me gatekeeper because I am passionate, but I'll never tell anybody that they're an idiot for for disliking something that I like. And I just saw it with Joker 2. Oh my God. How dare I? And I didn't say anybody was wrong. I just said, I like Joker 2 because of this, this, and this. It did these things to me. And man, I had so many, like, if you look at that X post, I had 3,500 likes and like 400 shares on that post, which that's not normal for me. Okay. It struck a nerve with some people. And if you look at the post, I'm not like attacking anyone. All I'm saying is I like this movie made me feel this way.
Yeah.
and that was it. And but the people just they didn't want to hear it.
Yeah. I
People
saw
were
the
getting
post.
pretty angry at me.
I saw your post, and I
Yeah.
thought, um,
That's part
I've
of
got
the
a
fun
couple
though.
of. I know I've got a couple
Mhm.
of super chats coming, so I'll get through them. I've got Sean Sheridan. I can never say your name, Sean. Sean Sheridan sent in a euro. Thanks very much, Sean. No comment though. Peter Anthony Productions Inc. sends in $4.99. Thanks very much for that, Peter. And said, fan of the director's cut more. Nurse kill scene. Yeah, we'll get into those kills in a little bit as well there, Peter. But thanks very
Is
much
he
for your
talking about producer's cut?
well, he did say the director's cut. There is. It's funny because I think it depends on where you're from. I've got a director's cut of the film, but it
Yeah.
is the theatrical cut. So it
Yeah,
depends.
there is a director's cut that you rarely see advertised.
Mhm.
And I think it's kind of the TV cut, really. And it
Right.
has a little bit of both versions. And so they just kind of called it, which that I'm sure that's not Joe Chappelle's preferred cut of the movie.
No,
But
no.
for a name, they just give it the director's cut.
Yeah, he probably knew nothing about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Kevin said, two of the best horror YouTubers. Thanks very much. Professional, dedicated to horror, and always entertaining. Much love, channels. Thank you both. Thanks very much, Kevin. That's
Thank you,
really nice of
Kevin.
you.
It's very nice.
Dream Villain said, I love Halloween 6, the most brutal Myers, not counting Rob Zombie movies. I don't mind the mask either. Tommy was great, and I like Kara's character as well. You know, it's funny, Lee, when I watched Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers a couple of weeks ago, I actually really do like Kara Strode. What?
Mhm.
How do you find her as a final girl?
I think because Laurie Strode exists, any other final girl is going to not matter to a lot of people.
Hmm.
Whereas I love, and maybe this is part of why I like Halloween 6 so much, is because it doesn't depend on Laurie Strode. You know, it seems
Yeah.
like so many times in this franchise we're depending on Laurie Strode, and I get it, but I kind of like when they have a different final girl in there. And you know what? I thought Carl was a very respectable final girl. She, she freaking runs and jumps out of a window. uh, she's dedicated. She's not afraid of a fight. I mean, she's going toe to toe with Myers and in knowing that she's going to lose.
Mhm.
So I think she has a lot of qualities in a great final girl, but she never gets mentioned. And that's because Laurie Strode exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the good thing about having Cara as the final girl in Curse is we've got to a point in the franchise now that we're accepting that there's going to be a new final girl, because it had Rachel and Jamie in Halloween
Yeah.
4, then it went on to Tina-ish in Halloween 5, and then when Cara came in Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers, we're like, do you know what? We know we're not getting Laurie Strode back in this timeline. Just give us that new final girl. And I thought she'd done a really good job. She
Mhm.
kind of reminded me of Laurie Strode in 1978. She was more innocent than some of the
Yeah, yeah.
previous final girls. Really beautiful as well. I didn't realize how stunning she was until I watched it
Yeah.
again, maybe just realizing it as an adult. But I thought she was decent. She was better than I first remembered anyway. But again, it's probably because anytime I watched it when I was younger, I was always put off by that Thorn cult
Yeah.
and that kind of storyline. So nothing else mattered to me. But watching it with a more level head now, accepting it for what it is, I think not just myself, but I think a lot of more people have started to enjoy Curse more now than they maybe did back then. It's kind of like the Season of the Witch effect, where
Yeah.
back in 1982, people were booing that movie. Now it's praised as one of the best Halloween films. Do you feel like Curse is getting a little bit more of traction now over the years?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I see more and more fans that are coming around to Curse than maybe any other Halloween movie over the past, like, say, 20 years, especially once social media started picking up. And I think image-wise, it's definitely one of those movies that has a lot of striking imagery about it. You can pull a variety of different images of Myers, but images of Tommy Doyle, and with the blue lighting and all that. The mask, some people say it's their favorite mask. It's one of my favorite masks. So it's a beautifully shot film, and I think it does kind of rhyme with the first movie quite a bit. You can break both those movies down, and you're saying that Cara Strode reminds you of Laurie Strode, and I think that's intentional. I think there are some scenes where they're doing the shot, they're doing the tracking shot very similar to the way they did it with the first movie, trying to recapture that innocence. So I feel like maybe 6 is trying to recapture the innocence more than any other, like the first movie did.
Yeah, it's not only trying to do that, it's also bringing back characters from part 1, Tommy, Dr. Wynn, Dr. Loomis. So you've got a lot of characters coming back from the first one, as well as characters from Halloween 4 and 5, like Jamie Lloyd. Of course, Jamie doesn't last too long in that, but she's still there. So it's almost like Curse is a bridge between the first batch of Halloween films, 1 and 2, and the second batch, Halloween 4 and 5. So it does do a lot right. There's still something about the supernatural parts that I can't get behind, but it does a lot more right than a lot of the other films that are maybe praised a little bit more than The Curse of Michael Myers. I think on Rotten Tomatoes, it's one of the lowest, if not the lowest ranked Halloween film on their website. So it does suffer a lot of hatred, but I would imagine though the people that have ranked it really low, if they watched it again, maybe they'll think differently. And this is coming from me. I'm one of the ones, and if you look back in some of my videos, I'm like, The Curse of Michael Myers, it's so bad, terrible. I can't be bothered watching it again. Going from that to I don't mind it. It's actually not too bad now. So people are coming around, and it's okay to not like something before and think it's not bad now, and vice versa. I might love a film and then watch it again and go, why did I love that film? It's not very good at all.
That is one of the frustrating things about being a YouTuber and reviewing movies is
having a change of heart.
Oftentimes getting those comments from older videos where, like, give an example, the first Terrifier. Oftentimes these new release movies, we're going to review it off of our first instinct the very first time we saw it. And I guarantee you the second watch of a new release movie is going to be a little different. It's probably still going to be in the same ballpark, percentage-wise it usually is. But with Terrifier, I didn't really get where they were going with the character, how the character was made up in the first movie. And it didn't connect with me. And then when I saw it again, I ended up really loving the movie, which this is a rare thing that does happen sometimes with me. It's like something clicks the second watch, and I kind of see where, okay, now I see where. And to give an example, I remember in my first review of Terrifier, I stupidly stated that I think Art should have talked. Thinking back to that now, and I was watching Terrifier last night, the first one and the second one back to back. I was just in the mood. And I was like, what the hell was I thinking? The way David Howard Thornton plays that character is perfection. And sometimes, for lack of a better word, you're wrong the first time you watch a movie. And that's what happened with me. So my opinion of the movie changed so drastically the second time I watched it, I had to review it again. That's why I do revisited series. If it's something that warrants a second review, then I'll do a revisited. But the problem is that I get a lot of comments from that first review, and those people don't think I like the movie. And I have to tell them, make sure you check out my revisited review, because you'll find that I agree with you, and my mind has changed quite a bit. And it does get frustrating, but I did that to myself, but that's normal people that don't review movies on YouTube. I guess this will drive it home for you. When they change their mind about the movie, it's like that tree that falls in the forest and nobody hears it, right? They're not talking to an audience. They're just, oh, I changed my mind. Okay, I'll go tell Aunt Sarah. It's different than I'll go tell, 50,000 people.
Yeah. And, for definite, because it's always going to be there. And the good thing is you don't delete what you said before. It's there,
I would never do that, because that's just it's almost like a diary. It's that moment in time. It's how and you know what? Everybody changes in their life. Change is a part of life. Change in your physical appearance, change in your opinion on something. I guarantee you, everybody has at least, one change in their life. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and I like documenting that.
Yeah, it's always a good thing. When I started out YouTube, I must have deleted about 100 to 200 videos from
Really?
the at the very beginning because I wasn't happy with how it looked or sounded or just
Yeah.
whatever I said. But I wish I didn't delete all those videos because I'd have a lot more videos now. But
Yeah.
it's also it shows you how far you've come, whether it be as a change of mind or how you present yourself professionally. But yeah, now I don't delete videos unless I have to for copyright reasons.
Yeah.
But now I won't delete anything. And just looking back on things, I'm like, oh, that's how I thought of that movie back then. That's different to how I feel now. Or I'll look at a video and I'm like, I have no grey in my beard. Now I've
Yeah.
got
Yeah. Me
grey
too.
everywhere. I'm like, oh no. So sometimes it's a sad thing that you look back and you're like, that was only 5 years ago and I have no grey in my beard.
It's almost like looking at a completely different person,
Yeah.
when you've been doing it as long as we have. And I'm so glad I left my very first video, all of them. I left them up
Mhm.
because sometimes in your feed, one of your old videos will pop up and you'll be, oh, I didn't even know I reviewed this. And then you'll click
Mhm.
on it and it's like watching a completely different person and
Yeah.
you're critiquing yourself. And
Mhm.
I always tell people, I've had people be very kind to me and say something very nice about the way I review a movie. And I'll tell them because they'll say they're interested and they would like to do it themselves. And I say, go watch my first review. If you watch my first review, I guarantee you right out the gate, you're probably going to be better. And it's
Mhm.
just, I think that's just an easy way to tell people that anybody can do this with
Yeah.
work, like anything else. You just have to work at it.
Mhm. That's the same with me. I don't feel like I do anything special or better than anyone else.
No.
I don't try and copy anyone else or be better than anyone else. I'll do a video, and if I'm happy with the way I am in it, then I'm happy with it, and it's fine. Um, what was it? Oh, I was going to say
Exactly.
something. I was going to say something, and I completely forgot. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. When you've been doing it as long as us as well, you can do a search on your videos on YouTube Studio, and if I search the word Halloween through all my videos, I've got 516 Halloween videos on my channel. So
Yeah.
as soon as that hits October, a lot of those old videos start to get watched again, which is
Yeah.
great. Is great for the channel because I've got like I think I've got like 8 times as many views this month than I have last month, all because of these old Halloween videos. So I think,
Yeah.
like we said at the beginning, keep doing it, and all over the years, your videos will rack up, and then before you know it, someone will search for something, and
Mhm.
you've probably spoken about it at some point in your life, and then your video will pop up. So don't delete them like I used to do.
Yeah. My
Definitely not.
Halloween Revisited series still and I did those. I think I finished those up 5, 6 years ago.
Mhm.
And those videos still every one of them still constantly gets views. And the number just funny enough, we're doing Halloween 6. That's the one that has the most views. It's like, I think over 60,000 views now. And it
Wow.
just keeps getting views. And, I reviewed Halloween 6 3 times. It's the only movie I reviewed more than twice. And the reason, it's like I was looking for another reason to talk, or it's just like something pops in my head. I'm like, damn, I wish I would have said that.
Yeah.
And I did my Blue Myers cut where I
Mhm.
and I was like, you know what? I've never really talked about my own version of the movie. And I've given it away countless times to people. And I've had so many people kindly come back and say, this is the version I watch. I don't watch any other version. That is
Yeah.
just like the ultimate compliment. So one day I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do a final Halloween 6 Revisited, and I'm going to have a whole section in there just breaking down that cut of the movie.
Mhm.
And, I even had like people record. Remember Stardust, that
The
app
movie?
Stardust from back
Oh,
then?
the app, yeah.
Yeah, you could record your quick little movie review. I had people actually submit them to me so I could put them in the review, and so they're still in there.
That's right.
But
Yeah, I remember that.
that one still gets constant views.
Yeah.
It's
I
Halloween's the gift that keeps on giving.
exactly. I done a video ranking all the masks in the Halloween franchise before the David Gordon Green trilogy, and
Yeah,
then I done a re-ranking of them when the David Gordon Green trilogy came out. My re-ranking's got like 20,000 views or whatever, but my original ranking that doesn't have all the videos, all the masks in it, it's got over 600,000 views, and it
yeah,
still gets more views than the updated video. And I always say to the people, like, that's cool, but go and watch my updated one that
Yeah.
doesn't get any views. It's so annoying. But yeah, it's still there. But I won't delete that one.
I think I've seen that one too, and your thumbnail's really like eye catching.
Yeah,
I think that's probably one of the reasons, the first
maybe.
reason that people click on it.
Yeah,
You're really good at your thumbnails.
I always try and change them up. Sometimes I'll do my thumbnails, and then I'll see the other channels. I wouldn't say they've copied me, but I see other channels then starting to do similar. So then I think, right, I'm going to try and change it up a bit again to try and keep it fresh and try and keep mine different from everybody else's. So I'm constantly changing.
I will admit, like, and that's the ultimate compliment, is that when you start noticing people that are doing things that you've done. I've noticed a couple things. I won't even say it, but I've saw a couple of things that I'm like, oh, I did that, you know.
Yeah,
But on the flip side of that, I get inspired by things. You kind of have to, because YouTube constantly changes. And even like down to the thumbnails. I think thumbnails today look different than they did, you know, a decade ago.
Yeah.
And I try to keep like the big catchphrase now, you know, when you're doing a review. I don't think you do this, but I notice a lot of people do this now. I've never put the term movie review. I think I did it like my first year. Put those words, movie review. I don't do that. I stopped doing that for some reason, but I do notice that people will put the name of the movie and then they'll put like, "Will blow your balls off" or something like that. You know, you got to put a stinger line on there, and you got to make that stinger line just like almost 3D, like pop out. And so that's something I tried to incorporate. I'm not going to lie. Inspiration is different than copying. You know, I don't want to I want to do exactly what you're doing with. You have a specific, distinct type of thumbnail. So I always try to go out of my way to not do, you know, what somebody did. Yours looks like a brand, you know? So I try to, you go this way, I try to go this way.
Yeah. Well, talking about the titles, I do that from time to time. In fact, I've done it for my Terminator, my Terrifier 3 review. Like, I didn't just write Terrifier 3 movie review. I think I've done something like people walked out. Here's why you shouldn't.
You know?
You know?
That's exactly what you got to do. I put you will shit your pants. That's that's literally what I put. You know what? I did a test real quick. I did a test one time because on my second channel, I like to play around on my second channel, try different things. And I said, you know what? My horror pack videos, I always give them horror pack, Rue Morgue, fan mail, you know, just a boring title every time. I was like, you know what? Instead of that, I'm going to try something different. And so for the title, I'm trying to remember what exactly I put, but it was just basically like, "Oh boy," or something, just like 2 words, "Oh boy," or something like that. And on the thumbnail, I put the most generic thumbnail with like an arrow, and that thing got double the views. Wow. So it's like you can never tell because the ultimate goal is for somebody to look at your title, look at your thumbnail, and go, "Damn, I need to know more," and then they click.
Exactly.
But if you spell out everything, they already know what's in the video. So they don't want to waste their time. So they're like, okay, I'll move on to the next video.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. That's one of the reasons why I've set up a second channel as well. One of the main reasons I've set up this second channel is I want to upload video content from specific films to see if it gets flagged. And if it doesn't get flagged, it means it's safe to use on my main channel. So I'll actually write a script of a horror film that I do a review for. I'll put that script into like a AI generator, and I say clean my script up, so it cleans my script, and then I'll then put it into an American speech, so I sound American, and, and then it'll create that audio for me. I'll put it into my Adobe Premiere Pro. I'll painstakingly put in lots and lots of different clips from those films, and then upload it. And if it doesn't get flagged, it means I know that video is safe to use if I want to reuse it for my own videos on my own channel. So it's good to test things out, test the water, especially when you don't want to get copyright strikes or copyright claims. It's good to kind of test that in your other channel, you know.
I brought back my documentaries through my second channel, and it broke my heart. And I think that was over a year ago now. And I took both of them down. You know, I got flagged for the Scream one, and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to take both of them down because I don't want to get go through this again. So then I had created my second channel, not even thinking about that. And then I think it was like maybe a month ago or something. I was like, my wheels started spinning. I don't know about you, but like when I'm like running or exercising or anything like that, my wheels spin like crazy. My YouTube wheels, and I'm like, oh, I should try this. And so I was like, you know what? I could put those back up and just cut out the section. And so I cut out the section and added updated information, and I put it on the second channel just to test the waters, like you said. And sure enough, it didn't get it. I mean, I got claimed, which I was fine with, but I didn't get the strike like I did last time. So they're on the second channel now. That's another great thing about having the second channel is, you know, you can, if you're worried, throw it on the second channel, you know?
Yeah, it's good to test the water. I've got a new member. Thanks, Sean.
Hey, Sean Sheridan. He's one of my members too. Awesome dude.
Oh, is he? Yeah, thanks.
Great guy.
Welcome to the members, Sean. So go back to that was a kind of way off. We went way off topic there.
I knew that would happen.
No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. But with well, before I get into Michael, I did mention about I've got a little list of things to talk about. Donald Pleasance, it's his final performance. Not only is it his final performance, but he never even got to do any reshoots for the producer's cut or the director's cut, I should say, sorry, when they tried to redo things. But how did you feel his performance was? I know it was his last one, but I don't want you to kind of go, oh, it was nice because it was his last. Do you think it was just a missed opportunity in there? Do you think he should have been in it more than he was?
My opinion of Loomis in 6, I think, has changed over the years. When I first saw it, it did, you know, you could see his age, and it didn't feel like the Loomis from, say, part 1. I think that kind of, there was a sadness to his performance. Like he wasn't as almost like maniacal as he was previously. And I saw this movie when I was, you know, for the first time when I was really young. Like I think I was 22 when I saw it in the theater. So my feelings on Loomis now in 6 have changed quite a bit because I've acknowledged now that I'm older that that's who older Loomis would be. And I find him kind of charming, especially when you go back and watch like 5 and even parts of 4. He's a little bit much, you know? Whereas I think the perfect cadence, the perfect balance for Loomis is in the first 2 movies. So I like that he kind of settled down a little bit in 6. And I'm quite fond of him in 6 now, actually. And knowing that he passed away when you're watching this movie, I think it kind of like with Brandon Lee, you know, in The Crow, when you're watching The Crow, there's always something a little extra there because you know this guy lost his life during the making of this movie. And it's sort of the same thing with Donald Pleasance. Of course, it wasn't like a tragic thing like what happened with Brandon, but still, you know that he didn't make it to the end. You know, I think they had enough footage that they needed for him, but like you said, he wasn't able to do any kind of reshoots or anything like that. But I'm very satisfied, especially with the extra footage that they put in the producer's cut. I think if there's one reason that anybody likes the producer's cut, it's more Loomis, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their opinions on the last act. I don't care for the last act, but I can agree. It's really nice to have those extra Loomis character moments.
Yeah, I think I was kind of similar to you when I first watched Dr. Loomis in it. I thought, why are you not doing this and why are you not doing that? But seeing it with an older head now, an older set of eyes, he's exhausted his character. Not only his character, but him as a person, Donald Pleasance. He's exhausted. He's an older gentleman. He's retired. And he just wants to live a quiet life, however long left he has as a character. So you can understand the actions that he takes in the film and then having to be pulled back into it because of what's happening with Tommy and Cara and Danny. It's a kind of somber performance. It was a more mute performance by Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis. And I do think I don't know if it's poetic or anything, but I feel like it was a nice end to Donald Pleasance, knowing that his biggest role and most memorable role is Dr. Loomis in Halloween 1978, and his last performance was in a Halloween movie. I don't know if that makes his family feel any better or not, but for us fans, we know that he is well known for Halloween, and he died finishing what he started basically in 1978. So quite a poetic moment. It's quite sad, but yeah, I thought his performance was better than I remembered from when I first watched the movie. But
Yeah, Donald, he loved Loomis, and I think, funny enough, I don't think he, I don't know if respected is the word, but when he did the first movie, we all know the stories and how he was a little bit maybe reluctant. Like it wasn't a character that right out the gate he was like, "Oh my God, this is the most amazing character." But I think he grew to love the character, and I think even if you were to ask Donald what at the end of his career, what was the favorite character that you played, he might say Loomis. I think he would probably say Loomis because of the legacy. And the last thing I could say about Loomis in part 6 is that it's different, but he plays that character like he is Loomis. He has never once phoned in a line. You can tell that every single line that he states as Loomis, he gives it 150%. It has to be real. It can't be we watch actors all the time, and you can tell when somebody's it's a decent performance, but he's acting. Loomis, Donald Pleasance just had this ability, like very few actors, to where that's Loomis. I don't see Donald Pleasance. He's like in real time. That's what he's talking, and everything he's saying, I'm completely with him. I'm buying it. And I think he's part of the gravitas of Halloween.
Yeah, totally agree as well. And like you said, when he was first done Halloween in 78, he had like a week worth of shooting and he didn't stay a minute longer because he's like, I'm in and I'm out and I'm not reshooting certain things. I'm just out there. I just want my paycheck and I want to go. And it's almost like Halloween was beneath him. But when he saw the final movie and he's like, oh, wait a minute, this is a great film. Then when they brought him back for Halloween 2, he was there. He was like, I'm Dr. Loomis and I'm going for it. Same with 4, same with 5. And then 6 again, he gave his all for 6, but he was obviously not well. He was a lot older. But the rest, for the 17 years of his life, he dedicated to that character. So we'll always thank him for that because he went out and that was his last movie. I'm just going to go quickly back into the chat, Lee, just to catch up. I'm way behind again, sorry. Dude says, damn, got here late. Halloween 6 Theatrical is a ton of fun. Needs a better finale, but I've always enjoyed the film. Something oddly enjoyable about it, especially at 2 a.m. The later the better, I guess.
I agree with that. That is a good movie to watch, like at the witching hour, like around that time frame.
Sean said, the theatrical cut is more gore, fun, but makes no sense in the third act. The producer's cut is better. It makes more sense. The story all the way through. Neither is great. Neither is a great movie, though. We will get into that, Sean, because I've got some differences that I want to talk about to Lee about the producer's cut and the theatrical cut and what we would prefer, because there's some things you might prefer in either or. But we'll get into that as well. Let's see. Hey. Thomas asked, where do you rank Paul Rudd in your Final Boys list? Final Boys in the Halloween franchise?
Yeah, there's only one or two. I mean, how many Final Boys are there in Halloween? He might be the only one, right?
Well, you got John from H2O.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess Cameron is kind of like a final boy in Halloween and Halloween Kills. So yeah, there's not that many, to be honest. It's all mostly females, but Paul Rudd, I thought he was a bit kooky, and that. How did you feel?
He was going for the psychotic for sure.
Yeah, he had done that kind of twitchy head.
You know what it is? I'm going to give Paul Rudd major props and credit here, because when you compare him to, like, say, the way the guy in Friday Part 5 played Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah.
He just went way too far on the more psychotic. He was full on 100% fucked in the head,
Yeah.
Whereas Tom Matthews went the other direction and played him more like just a straight up hero type. And so I think Paul Rudd with with Tommy Doyle, I think Paul Rudd finds a good balance there. I think he leans a little bit on the psychotic, but he's still, you can't help but root for the guy. Like, whereas
Yeah.
Tommy Jarvis in part 5, I wasn't really rooting for him. I'm sorry, I just wasn't, because he was just way too far on that side of things. Paul Rudd, man, I was rooting for, like, the scene where he's in the theatrical cut when Myers is coming towards him at the door and his reaction. That's one of my favorite moments in the franchise.
Yeah.
It's such a because you're like, that's tension. Like, that is full on tension. You're like, oh my God, I want him to get that door open so freaking bad, because you know this Myers will wreck him, destroy him. There's no chance if he gets to him. So that's a great moment.
There's something about Paul Rudd's voice though that I couldn't quite get behind. Have you ever seen movies like I Love You, Man, with Paul Rudd?
Yeah, I love. Yeah, that's a good movie.
So his voice is kind of like that. Like at the beginning of the theatrical cut, it's Paul Rudd narrating. So he's like, Michael Myers, blah blah blah, and it sounds like he's going to say like Jobin and stuff like that from I Love You, Man, or
Jobin,
the Bears, Man. And it just sounds like too comedic for the role that he played in Halloween. So I do like Paul Rudd. I think Paul Rudd's grown on me as an actor over the years, but his early work is quite questionable, like Clueless and
you can definitely hear he didn't have the experience when he started out. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but you can definitely see that in his performance, that sometimes you can get some really interesting stuff out of a non-seasoned performance, like say Matthew McConaughey in the Texas Chainsaw movie that he did.
Yeah,
it's entertaining, but you can tell it's kind of more of a novice approach, and oftentimes they'll just, I think I was reading something about Anthony Hopkins talking about the profession of acting, and one thing he notices is young actors that are good, that eventually end up being great actors, they tend to go over the fence for those early performances when they need to be more emotional or passionate, like DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what Paul Rudd was going for. If I'm not going to nail this, but I'm going to go for it. And if I fall on my face, then so be it, instead of playing it safe and being like a CW actor. And I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, you look at Jamie Lee Curtis as a prime example. I don't think she was great in the original Halloween. She was serviceable in the original Halloween. Iconic, but serviceable. But then when you look at her 20 years later in Halloween H2O, she's a seasoned actress. She's done a lot of stuff between H2O and the first Halloween, and she's 10 times better in H2O as an actress. Maybe not the character, but the actress herself is unbelievable. So it just goes to show that with time, you can be better. You can do better. David James said, make a good top 10 video. Movies that went from bad to good on a second view. And that's quite a good idea, David.
That would be I could probably put 10 movies on that list for sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Sleep. That's definitely one that I did not like it the first time I watched it.
That's the same with me, in fact. Yeah, same here. Keith said the dark man that saved Michael Myers in Halloween 5 was a former inmate from the same place that Myers escaped from in Halloween, that has his own killing spree using guns that came back to Haddonfield. Is that true? In like the comics or something?
That's the first I've ever heard that. But that kind of factors in, and I don't know if Keith has a source for that, but that kind of factors in to what I was talking about at the beginning of the stream, why I like Sticks and really the franchises, because it does leave a lot open for, even the first movie leaves a lot open for interpretation. You can fill in a lot of gaps in the first movie and kind of create your own Halloween story.
Yeah.
And kind of what he's doing there with 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Mega Sting said, Blue Myers cut is all I need. We never had the producer's cut in the UK on home media anyway, so I was grateful of the Myers cut. There you go, Lee.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I will say the Blue Myers cut does not have the final act of the producer's cut. I favor the theatrical cut, but what I did was I took a lot of those character building moments from the producer's cut and I put them in the my cut, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of both. But there's a lot of fan cuts of Halloween 6 out there. I'm definitely not the only one or the first. And it depends on which version of the movie. Like there are people that prefer the producer's cut ending. And so there are fan cuts that have that ending. So if you don't like the theatrical cut final act at all, then my cut's not for you. You know?
Yeah. Well, that leads me into the nice topic that we're going to talk about is the differences between the director's cut and the producer's cut and what we prefer. But just before that, do you remember the time when there was no producer's cut available, as in the Blu-ray quality? Do you remember what we had to do to get
Oh my
access to
God,
this
yeah.
producer's cut? Like eBay, people would be selling these really bad quality
Yeah, the bootleg
versions.
VHS and then the
Yeah,
DVD.
did you have any
I
of
had
those?
both of them.
Yeah.
You know what? And I've looked around. I don't think I can find. I don't like. Sure, what did I do with them? Did I lose them or something like that? But I remember having. I ordered on eBay. I had the VHS. I had the DVD, and it's just the footage is so dark and grainy that I
Yeah.
could never really form a logical opinion of the producer's cut. It was just cool to have it. And
Yeah.
when it came out in beautiful Blu-ray, it was like watching it for the first time.
Mhm.
And that was my holy grail of home video releases for 19 years. You know, and there was, if you've watched the 25 Years of Terror documentary, and they talked about how it might never see the light of day at the time. And when that thing came out, man, I still to this day, there's no home video release that is like, I was freaking jumping through the moon. I could not believe it was happening, and it looked glorious. So yeah, I watched those versions, but I could not form an opinion because the quality was just so bad.
Yeah, I was the same.
Yeah.
Like I bought it on eBay for the equivalent of say $25-$30 at the time. It was a
Mhm.
DVD that I bought, and when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, I can't even get my money back. but I don't know what I'm watching. It's like this so grainy and dark and
It's so
stuff. And I'm like,
dark and grainy.
yeah,
I would
I
love
guess,
like a documentary on how that was even like leaked out, you know?
yeah. Yeah, well,
That'd be kind of interesting.
that was the big question. Like, how did it even get out there in the first place? If
Yeah.
someone had access to that, then surely someone would have had access to like the negatives to be able to clean that up. But
Yeah.
it must have taken about 20 years for them to decide, let's just bring out well, maybe 15 years, let's bring out the producer's cut because there's people wanting to see it, albeit I don't think it's as good or strong as the theatrical cut, but new footage for a film that's 25, 30 years old is something that every Halloween fan wants to see. You want to see
Mhm.
extra footage for a film that you saw years ago. So when they announced that this producer's cut was coming, were you like, this is for me, and it could potentially change my mind on Halloween 6? Because I know that you still liked the theatrical cut. Did you think the producer's cut was going to improve it, or do you think it maybe take anything away
Oh,
before you saw
absolutely.
it?
Yeah, when I first heard it was coming out, I was like freaking foaming at the mouth. I couldn't wait to finally watch that thing because I thought there was a chance this might be my preferred version of the movie. I was
Mhm.
wanting more of the character beats. I was wanting more Loomis. The only thing I remembered before it came out about the final act was the bait and switch at the very end, you know,
Mhm.
and Loomis, you know, holding his wrist, and they used that audio bite for the theatrical cut. And I thought that was cool, actually. So I wasn't sure, but then when I watched it in all its glory and the, you know, I guess that's just a testament too to how important quality is, quality audio, quality video. It can change your mind about a movie for sure. You know, I was in the military, and every time I would deploy, we would watch these bootlegs.
Mhm.
You could go to these bazaars, and these sellers, they would, you know, they would be selling these bootlegs with some hilarious artwork on the front too, by the way. They would like take imagery from different things and throw it on the movie, stuff that's not even in the movie at all, and it was hilarious. Everybody had a gun, by the way, too.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be a
Seen some
freaking,
of those.
it could be a romance, and somebody would be holding a gun. And I'm trying to remember what my point was, but yeah, watching these movies, like I saw Avengers the first time that way. It's like, it's almost like you don't even, it's like you can't even say you really watched it because the quality is so bad. And guaranteed when you finally watch that movie in, you know, full HD, great sound, it's like watching it for the first time. It's
Yeah.
almost like it doesn't count.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. Like when I've seen the theatrical cut numerous times before seeing the producer's cut, and then just watching the producer's cut again, I'm like, I don't know if I'm enjoying this because it's footage I've never seen before, or
Yeah.
it's so I didn't really know how to feel about it when I was watching it. I'm like, should I enjoy this or should I not? And that's what I want to get into with the differences. Now, I've wrote a few things down that I feel are the big differences, and that is the theatrical cut of the film was warmer,
Yeah,
like physically warm. Like they actually made it look more orangey. With the
definitely.
producer's cut, they went kind of more bluish tones as well.
There's more contrast too, I think, in the theatrical cut.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you prefer out of the two when it comes to the look of them? Then,
Well, I
like
mean,
the
this gets right down to another reason why I made my cut, because you could say just the final act, but no, there's actually so many different aspects of both cuts that you can pick and choose. Oh, I like this or I like this.
Mhm.
And I think I liked the rougher, grainier look of the theatrical cut. Um, I preferred the score, which is quite different than the score in the, like, if you want the traditional Halloween score, then you go with the producer's cut.
Yeah.
But I like that this particular movie, it's going to be rougher, harder edged. Let's give it a more almost like sheet metal pounding itself, you know, um, that type of score that I guess it suits the vibe of the movie more, with the rock sounding and the guitars. And, you know, I always tell people the moment that kind of encapsulates the score for the theatrical cut is that moment where Beth, I think she's laying in the bed and she's dead, and Kara is pulling the cover over, and then you
Mhm.
hear the boom,
Yeah.
and that's not in the producer's cut, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the whole vibe. And I got to admit, seeing that on the big screen, that theatrical score, I think it was very effective in being scary. You know, it,
Mhm.
it had some scary. I mean, I remember they even marketed the movie as the scariest Halloween movie of them all. You
Yeah.
know,
But there was
so
the problem I have with the score is in the theatrical cut is sometimes you would get that random, the like you said, like the sheet metal it goes wah 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 wah,
yeah.
and it's like,
Wait,
but it
what? Wait,
happens,
wait.
yeah, but it happens like out of nothing. I
It's
think there's a
weird.
scene where Kara's talking, she's got her books in her hand, and she turns round, and there's nothing there, but it just goes wah 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 wah, and I'm like,
What?
why is it doing that? So
And yeah, it was just like for a transition or something. Sometimes.
yeah, yeah, it's just so random. But I prefer the producer's cut when it comes to the score because it sounds more John Carpenter-esque. I don't even
Yeah.
was it John Carpenter? I don't know, but they use more a kind of traditional Halloween theme, whereas the the theatrical cut was more metal rock, sort of like the music what people were listening to in the mid-90s, like
Yeah.
that kind of music, and it maybe resonated with people more at that time. But being a Halloween fan, you always kind of want to hear that Halloween theme throughout. So that
Mhm.
there was quite a sparse difference there between both of them. But when it comes to the score, I'm more producer's cut score than the theatrical cut. I feel like it fits better with a
You,
Halloween
you gotta
film.
hand it to Alan Howarth because the guy he did both scores. Like he did the traditional Halloween score for the producer's cut, and
Mhm.
then when they came back and did the reshoots for the theatrical cut, they told him, "Hey, can you recreate? Can you do a different score?" And he
Mhm.
did, and he brought out the guitars and all this, machinery and everything, and made a very different organ. So he pretty much created two different scores for the
Yeah.
same movie.
Was he connected to Halloween 4? Did he do something for Halloween 4?
Yeah, he did. He did all the scores up to 6, except for John Carpenter doing the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
one. But he jumped in as a journeyman with John Carpenter on Halloween 2. And
Right.
really, Carpenter even stated that that's pretty much mostly Alan Howarth. He gave him the original score, and he said, "Here, take this and do what you want with it." And he added that whole synthy vibe
Mhm.
of Halloween 2. And
Mm.
he let him carry the torch up until 6. And
Yeah.
I wish Alan Howarth they would bring him back. I think that would be so cool if he came back for an entry and did the score.
Is he still working? Do you know?
He did. I think so. I mean, I don't think he's attached to any newer films, but he
Mhm.
still looks like he's with it. And he did the interviews when the box set came out. and everything. So I don't know. I don't know if he's actually working in the business, like doing newer movies, but you know, it would be cool for him to come back. And because I always liked, like I love 4. I like the score that he did with 4. I wasn't the biggest fan of 5. I think that's kind of the laziest score, but there are fans of that. There are some moments in that, but I love 6. Like that's like I have the records of the first, pretty much most of the Halloween movies that have been released on vinyl, but they have not released a vinyl or a record for part 6 yet, and I wish they would, or H2O. Really, I think.
Well, they've got a CD, the John.
Yeah, they got
Ottman
the CD.
Yeah, the what you call it? The what's it called again? Something of Terror. Oh, I can't
Yeah,
remember
yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like Symphony of Terror or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
The John Ottman. I really like that score. I listen to that sometimes when I'm jogging. So
Yeah.
random. But it's kind of chilled, nice. Another big difference, we kind of touched on it, between both cuts is the gore. You've got I can't remember the driver's name, the kind of big man, and Michael Myers twists his head round.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can see his spine popping out the
Yeah.
back, but that's cut completely from
Mhm.
the producer's cut. And there's other scenes like, is it his name, John Strode? Yeah,
Yeah, John Strode.
when he gets his head blown off and stuff. I guess it just depends on your taste. Do you like to see the blood, guts, and gore? If you do, then obviously theatricals for you. If you don't, then maybe producer's cuts for you. What do you prefer in terms of what you do and what you don't see?
Yeah, I think I prefer the more violent, the more I'd be just, and it's not like I always need graphic violence in horror movies. It all depends on the mood that they're trying to set. If it's trying to set a mood of tension, then I jump on board with that, and I love that. But the theatrical version of Halloween 6 from the get-go is a very violent entry in the franchise, and I kind of prefer, like, if you're going to go a certain direction with a movie, go hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the theatrical cut does. It definitely goes hard. It doesn't pull any punches. You know, the moment where he pushes Jamie on that freaking, I don't know what you call it, but that grater or whatever that's coming through her stomach or chest. Yeah. You know, I like that. Okay, we're going to just make this whole movie like extra, which is quite amazing that they were able to come back and reshoot a lot of stuff for the theatrical cut to give it that vibe. Because if I remember correctly, I think they only had like maybe a weekend or a week or something like that. And they even did it kind of like covert ops. Like I think the producers didn't know that they were doing it. And this side did know that they were doing it. So they had to be very secretive about it.
Yeah.
And they were able to pull out this completely different version of the movie. So I think out of all the behind the scenes documentaries on the Halloween franchise, 6 is probably the most interesting to me. Just because of all the drama that went on behind the scenes to get it made.
Yeah, I was reading the Taking Shape Part 2 book that has a lot of the different scripts that they had for it, and some of the interviews that they done with some of the people who were writing it and stuff, and it was just an absolute shit show. Just the amount of times that they had to change things, the amount of people that get fired just before they started filming and stuff. I don't know how they got through it. I don't even know how they managed to get a final cut of a film. It was that bad. When you look at the theatrical cut, see that scene where Jamie gets pushed down on the tractor thing, whatever it was.
Yeah,
that was completely cut from the UK version of the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So in the UK, they had her pinned on it when she gets stabbed, but when Michael pushes her down, that was cut out the UK version. But when I got it on Blu-ray and watched it, and then saw that extra part was put in, I was like, oh, that's really good. Like that scene. But that's obviously cementing that she was dead. But in the producer's cut, she obviously survived and she got killed. I think she got killed by Dr. Wynn, the man in black. He shot her, didn't he, in the bed?
Yeah, he shot her.
Yeah.
Usually when you got a movie that has that much trouble behind the scenes, it's going to come out to be a complete disaster of a movie. And I know that some people are going to say it was a disaster of a movie, but on the flip side of that, you have some people like myself that literally are diehard fans of this movie, which is usually in any other franchise, it doesn't really go that way. It ends up
Yeah.
being one of the worst movies. You have people that get the freaking Cult of Thorn tattoo on their wrist. You know, that's when you know that you have a hardcore fan base. You know, and there's people that die by that mask. They love this Six mask. It's the only mask I've ever bought in my collection. It's the first true legit Halloween mask I ever bought was Six. And I always said that to myself, if I could ever buy a Halloween mask, I chose that mask over the original mask. So that says something, you know?
The first mask I ever bought was the Halloween H2O mask because I'm a fan of the H2O mask. I
love that.
I don't really like the Halloween 6 mask. There's just something about it that feels so heavy. It's very heavy looking.
It does feel heavy.
But I'm not a fan of the mask. But it's funny because you loved that mask, so that was the first mask that you bought, and it's the same with me with the H2O mask.
Yeah.
I chose it over the first mask. I still got the first mask, but my priority was to get the H2O mask first of all, and then anything else after that was fine. Now,
well, it seems like the masks from the other movies, at least back in the day, they were harder to come by. Whereas, like, if you were gonna get a legit Halloween mask, you were probably gonna get the first for a decent price.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's why. And I'll even admit, the first mask in the first movie to me always felt kind of boring, but it's perfect for that movie. And I think it couldn't look any cool. Like, it is a chilling mask, but maybe it's just because we're like so desensitized to it because we've seen that mask so many. Like, the very first time I saw the original Halloween, the mask freaked me out.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've seen that mask. Like, think in your mind, you've probably thought of that mask or seen that mask thousands of times, you know? And so far more than any other mask in the franchise.
Oh yeah.
You know, and one that you don't want to think about is probably like 5. Like, I think that's one of the worst masks in the franchise.
Yeah, no, definitely. In fact, I remember buying do you remember Cinema Secrets? It's a company that done Michael Myers masks back in 2002.
Sounds familiar.
They brought out the Halloween Resurrection mask in 2002. I remember buying that one as well. It was
Really?
it was a decent copy of it. The producer's cut. This is something that was quite interesting because the producer's cut, it helps explain the previous movies more than the theatrical cut in my eyes. Like, it reminds us of things that happened in Halloween 5. Just to refresh your memories, because it has been 6 years. So I think it helps bridge the gap more than the theatrical cut did. Do you feel like it's done that at all? Like, it helps to explain the story a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you look at that opening scene, and they show a scene from 5 that I still to this day don't know the answer to, because the footage is not in the movie. So I'm wondering if they actually took a deleted scene from part 5 or reshot something for the scene that's supposed to be in part 5. I'm not sure. But yeah, I agree. My answer to you would be yes. It's nice to have that catch up, you know?
I can't remember if this was in 5, but there was a scene in Curse where you see Michael Myers getting taken into the van in custody, and you've seen the back of Jamie's head. It's not Danielle Harris, I don't think, but it looks like it's supposed to be her. That wasn't in part 5, wasn't it? Not.
No, it wasn't.
No. So that must have been reshot as well. But there's also scenes in the producer's cut that made more sense with how they were shown in the producer's cut. There was a scene where I've wrote this one down when Danny puts the knife towards John Strode in the kitchen scene, the dinner table. Right. In the theatrical cut, he was just like pointing it towards him, like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" But in the producer's cut, you hear the Man in Black saying, "Danny, kill for him," and then you see Michael Myers outside, and then he brings up the knife. So that explains things more. I feel like the producer's cut is a better film in terms of a coherent story. Yeah, whereas the theatrical cut, it seems to be all over the place, almost like they had to rush to try and get this film out. So when it comes to comparing both of them in terms of what's the most coherent storyline, I would say producer's cut is the most coherent, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think the ultimate goal for the theatrical cut, I think they threw the story out the window. And I think the goal there was, we don't like what we've shot so far, that being the producer's cut. We need to fix this, and we need to make it more energetic. I'm thinking what they were probably thinking is, we need to make it more energetic, more balls to the wall, and let's just really up the violence and go out with a bang. And I think that's what they wanted to do, and it resonated with some people, and I think some people it didn't. You know, I do feel like the producer's cut. Yeah, you're right. The story is better. I do feel like the movie moves along a little slow. Like there isn't a feeling of like we need to go. Like it's frantic. I felt like the theatrical cut, it had more of an oh shit feeling to it than the producer's cut did. But having said that, I will say, can you still hear me?
Yeah. You hear me okay?
I think hold on.
Oh, Lee can't hear. Quick, let's talk about him. While Lee's doing that, I'm going to go into the chat. Eli says, hey, Twisted Locker. Are Twisted Locker here? I don't think they are. But okay, hey, Twisted Locker.
You might hear, like I can hear what happened is I charged these when I bought them, but I don't think they charged fully. So I'm hoping you don't hear like an echo or anything.
No,
now my speakers.
Can you hear me okay still?
Oh yeah, I can hear you just fine. But I guess maybe a question for the chat is, do they hear like an echo now because they might hear you behind me or something? I don't know.
No, I don't hear an echo, so you should be okay. If anyone hears an echo, just let us know. What was in there? Sorry.
We were talking about the producer's cut, and I was I'm trying to remember what I was saying. Something about the producer's cut, and yeah, I think just the pacing, like it didn't feel as frantic as the theatrical. You could even say the theatrical might have felt a little bit too frantic, but you know, I would be curious, and I don't think I've ever done a poll on this. Like, which version do you prefer? My guess would be most would say the theatrical cut, but I think it would be like maybe 60-40 either side.
I think what nails it for me is I prefer the theatrical cut, but I think what nails it for me is there was that flashback that explains that Michael assaulted Jamie and the baby is his. I just felt like that was way out in left field, like something that Michael Myers, I wouldn't say somebody wouldn't do, but it was never something that crossed his mind in the films to do something like that. So I feel like it was just way off and making Michael the father of his niece's baby.
That's my big problem with the producer's cut, which I can't believe we haven't even mentioned that yet. But yeah, sometimes when you give too much of the story, then you're going to alienate half your audience. And the idea of Michael being the father of that child, that was I can't, just the idea of Myers doing that to Jamie, that's not in his character. It's never been in his character before. You know, he just wants to kill. So they lost me when they did that.
Same. So I think that's what, there was some things I like about the producer's cut more, some things I like about the theatrical cut more, but I just feel like that decision that they made to put that into the producer's cut I was like, oh, no, that's not something they should be putting in. And it's the same with the ending. The ending of the producer's cut felt, again, a little bit more too far-fetched, whereas the theatrical cut, it was more brutal with the massacre scene, and then the scene where Tommy's fighting Michael Myers at the end. It felt more in line with the Halloween franchise. When the mask was lying on the ground, where did Michael go? We just don't know. Did he kill Dr. Loomis when you hear him screaming?
Yeah.
Or did he scream because he saw that Michael Myers wasn't there? So it leaves it up to your interpretation as to what happened at the end of the film. Whereas the producer's cut, it was, as far as I recall, Dr. Wynn comes back. Michael Myers Dr. Loomis comes back. It looks like Michael is on the ground. He takes a mask off. It's Dr. Wynn, and Michael Myers walks away with Dr. Wynn's outfit as the Man in Black. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, ironically, most people, their knee-jerk reaction is the producer's cut feels more like Halloween, but story-wise, I think the theatrical cut feels more like Halloween because some of the decisions that they made in the story for the producer's cut, they don't feel like Halloween to me. You know, just like I said, Myers assaulting Jamie, you know, raping Jamie pretty much. That's not in, and I think that's why people didn't like just the idea of that word being in, you know, even if it's not Myers, like in Rob Zombie's director's cut of the first movie, that scene turned people off. It's like, what is this doing in my Halloween movie? I don't need this. You know, I like you when you go wild and you change the story up, but you still got to fall in line with certain criteria in the Halloween franchise. I think if you veer too far out, then you can lose some people. So, and some people might say that they did that with Ends, but you know, I guess it all depends on what you want. I thought Ends stuck with the old idea of evil instead of Myers. Let's play around with that thing that's inhabited Myers. What happens when Myers is at, you know, he's at the end of his rope and we need to transfer that evil to a young 21-year-old like Myers was, you know? So to me, that stayed in the confines of it, but you know, for some people it didn't.
Yeah. I started introducing my son to the Halloween franchise, but I'm letting him watch the more tame Halloween films at the moment, like Halloween H2O. And I let him watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, but I had to track down the theatrical cut because the theatrical cut is less intense than the director's cut of the movie. He enjoyed it. But yeah, trying to show a family member Rob Zombie's Halloween and then having that scene from the director's cut when the two orderlies go into the jail cell, into his cell, I'm just like, can't watch that.
It's awkward.
Yeah, it's so bad. And it's something that a Halloween film, I know that you get some nudity in Halloween films, but they're not like the Friday the 13th movies. It's something that Halloween kind of prides itself on, as it doesn't need that. It just relies on the horror aspect of the films. But Rob Zombie just kind of totally changed that, turned it upside down. It was so weird. Let's see what the guys are saying. David said, which mask was the scariest? Not necessarily your favorite, but rather the one that makes you shit your pants, to borrow Gundam's phrase. H2O mask, surely, for David. What is your scariest mask then? Again, not your favorite, but your scariest.
You know, I got to give credit to David Gordon Green. That mask is freaky. And you know, and I do think Halloween 6 is right up there with the scariest masks. At certain angles, the original mask is quite terrifying.
Yeah,
you know, it's all about the lighting and the angles and everything. You know, like in Halloween 4, I think the lighting was way off on some of the shots in that movie, and it just looked pure white, and it wasn't like frightening at all. Luckily, George P. Wilbur was one scary guy playing. You know, I think he nailed that that vibe of just being terrifying without even thinking about the mask.
Yeah,
but as far as masks go, I think I don't know. It's tough. I'd say David Gordon Green for sure. The Kills mask is very effective, but I'd say the Kills and probably the H6 mask. But it all depends on the lighting, you know.
I'd also give props to Rob Zombie for his Halloween mask in the remake. It's looked weird, but the scene where Michael Myers as a young kid was walking around the corner of his house to kill Judith, and he's wearing the mask. It looks too big for him. He's coming up behind Judith and stabbing her in the back. That mask in that scene, it was kind of clean, but just eerie. Just seeing that mask on a young kid. So it's like you said, it kind of depends on the scene, the lighting, the setup of that moment. But I couldn't pinpoint personally what mask was the scariest, because each mask is scary in its own right, depending on the scenes that they're in, you know. But yeah,
I will say Rob Zombie, before that movie came out and the lead up to it, that I thought that had the potential to be the most messed up, scariest Halloween movie because of the reputation that Rob Zombie had built for himself up to that point. And seeing that for the first time and seeing a young Myers in a mask and the music and him coming down that hallway, it was pretty damn terrifying. You know, now as time's gone by, it's not as bad, but it's pretty effective scene for sure. That is probably one of the better scenes in the movie too.
Yeah, I'd say so. I
Yeah.
said that yesterday to Davey on another live stream, that some of the best scenes in that film were that scene when he's chasing sister, and the scene when Laurie sees Michael and she's running across the street screaming, and then
Yeah.
Michael's right behind her. He's like 7 foot tall. This Michael
Yeah.
Myers coming behind you. That was a scary moment. So there's some good scenes in that film. It's just not the best film. You know, it's too long
for
and
sure.
overstays its welcome. Brett said, I believe originally for 6, there was an idea to put Michael in outer space. That eventually got reserved for Jason X. There is some truth to that, Brett, because
Yeah.
in the Taking Shape book, John Carpenter had an idea to put Michael Myers into space, but I think he was only saying that so that he could completely destroy the franchise at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm not
It
too
would've.
sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure how much of that was actually going to happen. Did you hear that about the space story?
They were even thinking about putting him against Pinhead after Freddy versus
Yeah.
Jason was a hit.
That's right.
And yeah, once you go down that's risky. That's risky. Luckily, Freddy versus Jason was fun and it was a good movie, but there's a big chance that if you put that movie out and it ends up being really bad, it could potentially destroy. And also, I don't think Hellraiser is at the level of Halloween.
No,
So
no,
you're
definitely
putting,
not.
you know, you're putting all your bets on your big franchise. Hellraiser's got nothing to lose, right? So whereas Freddy and Jason were on even ground. So thank God they didn't do the Myers versus Pinhead movie. Save that for the freaking fan films.
Yeah, no, I agree, definitely.
Yeah.
Gray Simmel said the producer's cut was better until the final act, but the runes and the transferring of the curse was terrible. I think it was meant to be implied the cult artificially inseminated Jamie. Yeah, that could potentially have been the case as well, but I don't think they make that clear cut. They still leave
Yeah.
room for you to think that Michael's fiddled around with Jamie. Unless they make that clear cut, then people will assume the worst, I guess. I guess we're assuming the worst. But yeah, did you feel like there could have been room for them to do that instead of the dodgy one?
Well, the last thing you ever want to do, I think, is to control Myers, and I think that's what when you have the cult members all standing around there, and you got Myers standing over there in the corner.
Yeah.
Just that image alone, something feels weird about that. Like, why are we doing that? Myers, and to give some more credit to the theatrical cut, that freaking scene where Myers completely slays all those doctors and beautifully shot scene too. I think that was kind of the antithesis of what the producer's cut was trying to show. You don't control Myers, and if you dare try to, he is going to obliterate you and everyone in the room.
Yeah.
And I mean, comparing those two scenes to each other, to me, it's like it's not even a question. And it's from that point on, and then you got Wynn saying to Tommy Doyle, join us, you have talent. Like, oh my God, what are we doing?
I was so left field
It was
that, like,
stupid.
it feels like, I guess then, that the producers, as much as the producers wanted to make a really good coherent film, but they were maybe way off in terms of what the fans really wanted or deserved to get. Like,
Yeah.
how could they do something so completely different? But again, I don't blame them fully because of how Halloween 5 ended and what Halloween 5 gave us. It's almost like they backed themselves into a corner. If they were obviously thinking about it in hindsight, just do the H2O for Halloween 6, but they didn't have that idea. They thought we need to make this a sequel because of how Halloween 5 ended. So I don't fully blame anyone involved in Curse because maybe they done the best they could with what they had, you know?
That whole give the fans what they want adage can be a little risky too. I always say, don't give the fans what they want, give the fans what they don't know they want. You know, that way there's a nice surprise in there. If you give them beat for beat what exactly they want, then they're going to complain anyway, because then they'll be like, there was no surprises. They gave me exactly what I wanted. So that's why I always I go into a movie and I have a checklist of, ooh, I would like this, this, and this. Now I'm going to throw that out the window. I'm going to sit down in my chair and I'm going to eat my popcorn and I'm not going to think. I'm just going to let the storyteller tell me his story. And then I'll make up on my own mind if I like, because if his story is exactly what it's never going to be exactly what your story is in your head. You know, we can all theorize for days, but at the end of the day, just let the filmmaker tell the story that he wants to make.
Yeah.
And I think more times than not, you have a better chance of coming out with a good movie.
Yeah, and less production hell, and then the movie comes out when it's supposed to come out. Yeah, totally agree with that as well.
Like David Fincher in Seven, and every freaking day he would come in and a new set of notes would come from or they'd just be standing over his shoulder. And he said it was just a miserable experience, so bad that he doesn't even like talking about it to this day.
Wow.
And you want to give one thing I can give Blumhouse credit for, as much shit as we give Blumhouse, from what I've heard, is he lets filmmakers make the movie that they want to make. You know, take that swing. But it just makes for a healthier filmmaking environment. And I think oftentimes it's nice to get 100% what the filmmaker wanted to give you, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes the other way, like Joker 2. You could alienate your audience.
That's the chance you take. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a chance you take.
If you're hiring that director, you have to trust that director's got the vision that you want, so that why would you hire them in the first place if you don't trust them? So I would say hire the director that you want to trust and let them do their job, like they do with Christopher Nolan. They'll give him all the money he wants and they won't get involved. James Cameron, the exact same thing. So you need to trust the director will give you the best that they can do. If they give you if they try and give you the best and you interfere, then it's already went wrong. So
yeah,
that's the way Halloween 6 ended up, with all the people that were coming in and out. It was such a shame. Now, the last thing I want to discuss is how Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, compares to the rest of the movies for you. Now, again, our ranking changes all the time. You'll notice that from videos that you've done, because you've done more than one ranking video. So it changes as the years go by. But at this moment in time, Lee, where does The Curse rank for you, if you know roughly where it ranks?
It's usually in top it's usually in top 5. It's been in pretty much ever since it came out. It's been in my top 5.
Right.
And I don't think any Halloween movie is perfect. But there's a reason we all love this franchise so much. You know, at the end of the day, it's about Myers, and that's what kind of sends it home for us. And if you put Myers in a situation where he's not the king, he's not in control, then it's going to be trouble. And I think that's why I've always resonated with 6, is because maybe it's the timing. This was the year before Scream came out. So I think maybe some of the things I don't like about H2O is because of Scream. Whereas Halloween 6 did not have that Scream pressure that a lot of movies had after that movie came out. It was its own thing, but it still felt very 90s, and it arguably has some of the best cinematography in the franchise. And so when I rack and stack it amongst all the other movies, it still stays pretty high. But I'm kind of weird with my rankings with certain franchises, and I get that comment from people all the time, like, you have the wildest ranking. I would never expect this movie to be in this location, and I'm kind of proud of that. It's just I make no apologies about the movies that I love in this franchise and the movies I don't love, but I will say I do like pretty much most of them. I think I'm trying to think, like, Resurrection is the only movie that I really, really don't like, and you got to catch me on a really good day to like Rob Zombie's Halloween, his first movie. I love his second one, but his first movie, I never feel the desire to throw that movie in. That one and Resurrection. But all the other movies, I can have a great time with them. And Curse is definitely, it's still in my top 5 for sure. I would say number 1, of course, is the original. Number 2, God, 4. Yeah, 4 is always number 2. And then from there on, for like the next 4 positions, it can switch, depending on the day. Like Kills and Ends are probably somewhere in there. I love those 2 movies so much. And then Curse. I think those 5 movies, pretty much they're interchangeable, but they stay in the top 5. It seems like it.
Yeah. I'm with me. It's the first one is obviously number one. H2O has been my second favorite for quite a while now, but it can change from
Yeah.
3 downwards. Like Ends at the moment is my third favorite, I would say. But from fourth place all the way down to near the bottom, it can always change for me depending on how I'm feeling. But I would feel like Curse is better than Resurrection, of course. It's definitely better than Halloween 5. I'd say it's better than Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. As you know, I'm not a fan of Rob Zombie's
Yeah.
Halloween 2. Loved the beginning with the hospital scene, but the film for me went way off. So I feel like it's better than that. But I really have to watch them all fully. I do it every October anyway. But a couple of years ago, if you asked me where does Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers rank, I would say it's joint last with Resurrection. That's
Yeah.
where I used to put it. So, but now watching it, I feel like it's a lot better than Resurrection. It's better than Halloween 5, better than Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So it's not at the bottom of the list anymore. And I feel like with more time going by and more watches, I enjoy it a little bit more. It's going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary next year. So maybe do a little anniversary video discussing it. But I think time has been kind to The Curse of Michael Myers. That's surprising for me to say because of how much I didn't like it before. And if someone who, like me, didn't like it, who's starting to enjoy it, I would imagine people who didn't mind it would actually really enjoy it now. So I feel like it's one of the ones that's aging better than some of the other films in the franchise for sure, which is
It's a good
nice
movie
to
to
see.
watch in October too. It has
Yeah,
a
it's got the
great
October
Halloween
feel.
vibe to it.
hmm Yeah. Um, let's see what the guys are saying. We'll wrap up quite soon, guys. Gray said, if the cult were controlling Myers for 17 years, what was it, theatrical cut, that made him turn on them? That's
Well,
that's a
that's
good
the
question.
thing. Like, I don't look at it as the cult controlling Myers because I go by the theatrical cut.
Mhm.
Again, I've always, followed the thought that Myers is never controlled. Right? You can point him in a direction, but you don't want to get in his way. Meaning that Myers doesn't like take influence from anybody. And there's still a lot of mystery to Myers. Why he comes out only on Halloween. Why he thinks like he thinks, and that's part of the love of the character, is that there is still to this day this kind of question mark that you can kind of form around the character. There's no like absolutes with Myers. Only thing you can go by is what Loomis has told us, and that he's just evil. Loomis knows more about Myers than anybody does. That's why that character is so important. And even with what Loomis gave us, there's still a lot of questions. And freaking Sartain even talked about it in the beginning of Halloween 2018. So many therapists tried to analyze Myers, and they would all end up with kind of a question mark. That's why he's so interesting to even therapists. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and I don't like the idea of some cult wearing these stupid outfits controlling Myers and him standing over there in the corner. And thank God that's not in the theatrical cut.
Yeah. Yeah, at least there's a cut there that we can kind of go, do you know what? This is a good version of Michael compared to the producer's cut. Kenny said the movie Curse is a really flawed film, though. Yeah, I would say it's flawed.
Yeah,
And I
of
think
course.
it's,
Yeah, all of them are flawed in some way
yeah,
or another.
I feel
Even the
like
first movie has flaws. It's
similar.
not. It's the thing about, if you ask anybody what their all-time favorite movie is, I guarantee you they could follow that up with, "Oh, but there is an error here." Very rarely do you say, "I like this movie because it is just 100% perfection." Maybe Back to the Future's, they always say Back to the Future is the perfect movie. There's not a scene that has flaws, but even Back to the Future, if you ask Robert Zemeckis, he'll say, "Oh yeah, there's a couple of scenes that aren't even in focus." It's just that's just the nature of the beast. And I don't think we want our favorite movies to be perfect movies. It's a personal thing. It's something that connects to us, connects to a specific moment in our lives. And I think that's why nostalgia is a big thing, because we all connect to a certain film at a certain time. And
Yeah.
you can watch that movie, like I watched part 6, and immediately I will think back to where I was at a certain time when I watched it and how I was feeling. It wasn't about, oh, this shot is perfect. You know, that's not what your favorite movie is about. It's about how it affected you, you know?
Yeah. Josh K said, I've gone off H2O over the years. It doesn't feel anywhere as unique as the other entries for me. Feels very like a late 90s slasher under the Halloween branding than a Halloween film. That's something that I talk about quite a lot, Josh, is whenever I say to someone, why do you not like Halloween H2O? And one of the reasons is because it feels like a late 90s slasher movie. And then I say, well, guess what? The movie came out in 1998. So it is a late
Yeah,
90s teen slasher
kind
movie.
of hard not to.
Yeah, so it's a movie of its time. Films that came out in the late 80s feel like late 80s films, and it's the same with H2O. It feels like a late teen slasher movie. Yes, of course, we got all those types of movies that came out back then. We can't help that. That's just the movies that came out back then. If that's one of the reasons why I don't like it, that's absolutely fair enough. Maybe you're not into the teen slasher movies of the late 90s. And I know that people say, well, Halloween shouldn't need to copy like Scream because Halloween is Halloween. But you got to remember, if it wasn't for Scream, H2O wouldn't have come out. And if it wasn't for H2O coming out, we would have direct-to-video Halloween films for the rest of our lives if they brought them
Yeah.
out. So although Scream has to thank Halloween for existing, Halloween now has to thank Scream for re-existing again. So it kind of comes full circle. So to
That
me,
movie saved the franchise, like it
yeah,
or not, you know,
it did.
monetarily, it saved the franchise. We were going direct to video if not for H2O. And as much as I complain about H2O, there are some scenes in that movie that are fucking awesome.
Mhm.
You know, that moment where Laurie is walking towards Myers with the, or, you know, yelling for Myers with the axe.
Yeah,
That still to this day, that scene gives me chills every time I
same.
watch it. It's the scene that we've all waited for 20 years, and they achieved that goal. You know, if the only goal of H2O was to put Myers and Laurie together again, literally, then I think they nailed it. You know,
Yeah,
there's certain things I don't care for with the movie, but it could have been a lot worse. You know,
yeah.
and it's a fun movie. At the end of the day, if I want to watch something, because sometimes I'm in the mood for like a 90s slasher and it fits into that bill. You know, it's a fun movie. There's nothing too deep about H2O. It's just a good time. It has a good fast final act, and you got your popcorn and you're out of there. You know, and that's if you want that, that's what H2O is.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if people don't like that type of slasher movie from that era, that's fine. Absolutely. You know, there's certain eras that not that I don't like, I just don't watch because it doesn't resonate with me. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
Josh followed it up with, yeah, I suppose it's which era you enjoy more. You get more enjoyment of the film. I guess like 4 and 5, more because I enjoy more 80s horrors. Absolutely, yeah. And I
yeah, that's
think
where I'm at.
like you, Lee, the first Halloween you saw in the cinema was Halloween 4. You're never going to forget that. And that's going to be a
Yeah,
nostalgic moment for you as well. Nostalgia is a powerful thing and it's a positive thing as well. So I always urge people to use nostalgia as a positive. I know some people say, oh, you're just saying that's good because it's nostalgic. Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons why, because nostalgia is a good thing. It's a powerful thing as well. So yeah, that's what I would say anyway. I think we'll call it there. Lee, is that okay?
yeah, sounds good to me. This is fun, man. Fastest 2 hours ever.
I know it's always, but when you focus on one specific film, it's always good because you always branch out anyway. Like someone will talk
Yeah,
about H2 or whatever, but as long as you've got that kind of spine of the conversation, then you can always kind of
it'll just fly by.
go back to that. When I was thinking of trying to get someone on to do The Curse of Michael Myers, I couldn't think of anyone else other than yourself that has a more positive thing to say about
Yeah,
that film. I always want to find someone who loves a film. I don't want to bring on someone that says, I hate this movie. I hate it. I
yeah,
hate it. You know, because I want someone to bounce off of because I don't love Curse of Michael Myers. And I just love to understand someone from a different perspective who enjoys the film more than I do. So it's,
yeah.
even though I don't
That's a
hate
more
it,
fun conversation anyway,
yeah,
because then you could say some stuff about like say if we were talking about H2O that I might not have even thought about. And you
Yeah.
know, I could talk about my, like when you hear somebody else's passion for a movie, it is infectious. And you start and the ultimate goal is you might end up saying, damn, I kind of want to throw that movie in now.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
But yeah, if you're both just bashing on a movie, then how far can you take that conversation? You know?
Yeah, yeah. So it's good to agree, but it's also
Yeah.
good to disagree so that you can get a conversation going and a debate going. That's why I don't like doing it on Twitter or anything, because when I try and debate with someone on Twitter, they see that as an attack, and then it just turns into an argument, and then I just go,
Mhm.
right, right, it's done. You need to actually physically speak to them so they know how you're coming across. And I never try and come across as an argumentative person. I like to come across as someone who loves to debate on things. So if
Exactly.
someone doesn't like H2O, I'll say, well, maybe you should give it another go because this is why I think they're showing the eyes. This is why I think they do this and that. And if someone says, I'll give it a chance, I'll say, fair enough. And if they don't like it, also fair enough. You've given it a chance. And I feel like you're the person to go to for someone to be persuaded into watching The Curse of Michael Myers. So that's why this
Thank
was
you.
an
I
episode
appreciate that.
dedicated to you, Lee, so that if anyone else in the chat who doesn't like Curse of Michael Myers, hopefully you've maybe turned them around to not love the movie, because you can't make someone love it, but at least give it another chance, see it from a different perspective as well, and hopefully they get something out of it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to with YouTube anyway. Some people, they'll look at YouTube as more opportunistic, but that can come off as not genuine. You know,
Mhm.
like this is the hot movie of the time. Ooh, I'm going to start talking about this, even though I don't really care about
Yeah.
it. I think if you are really, really passionate about something, even if you're going with an opposing opinion, people will respect that because they see how much. And I had, and I'm sure you've had this too. But I like when I did my last revisited for Halloween Ends, I had quite a few comments in there stating that, damn, I didn't actually think about this particular scene like this. Thank you for stating that. Now I kind of see the movie in a different light now.
Yeah.
And that's like the ultimate goal. If I can make somebody see from my point of view, not necessarily making them like the movie, even though that's
Mhm.
nice, but I think the end goal is for you to see where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
make you say I'm not trying to say you're wrong, right? I'm just trying to make you see why I am passionate about this movie.
100%. Yeah, that's what it's all
Yeah.
about. Like, I want to tell people how much I love a film, and I don't want it to come across as this is what you should think. It's
Yeah.
basically me saying this is what I think. I hope you enjoy what I'm telling you, and if someone gets something out of it, then great. If someone gets offended by it, then that's on them, not
Yeah,
on
that's
me.
on them. That's a problem with them. That's not a problem with you.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm not intentionally doing that to people. So there we go. But if you stay with me for a minute, Lee, I'll just say goodbye to the chat.
Sure.
And I will get it ready to close because I always forget this. But for everyone who's been in the chat asking questions, just kind of chatting amongst yourselves as well, I really appreciate it. Also to Lee, of course, for taking the time out of his day to come and chat with me on Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. But before we go, Lee, what have you got coming up? Have you got anything exciting coming up? And where can the people find you if for some reason they don't know who you are?
You can find me at Drum Dums, DRUMD. Because and the reason I say that is because so many people they'll say Dum Dums
Dum
or
dums.
Dum Drums.
Yeah.
And that's my fault for coming up with a stupid name, but it's Drum
Can't change
Dums.
it now.
Yeah. So Smile 2, that should be coming up soon. I do have another documentary project I'm working on. I'll say it here first. How about that, Barry? You'll get an exclusive. All right.
Exclusive, yeah, let's
I'm
go.
working on a documentary for The Crow. I'm going to cover all
Oh,
5 movies and the actual, just a little bit of the TV series, but it's mostly focusing on all 5 movies. From an objective standpoint, you don't get opinions in my documentaries. I pretty much it's just covering what, how the movie was made,
yeah.
interviews, all that type of stuff. If you watched my Screaming Halloween, it's pretty much in the same type. But the reason I chose The Crow is one, that's one of my favorite movies, but 2, there's no all-inclusive documentary on The Crow.
Mm,
You can find little featurettes on each movie, but the farther you go down the line, you can find less and less,
yeah.
except for maybe the new movie, which that doesn't even have that much. So it takes a lot of digging, on mine and my wife's part. She writes the script, but yeah, it's been fun, and I should start editing and recording that within the next couple of weeks. She's working on the script right now, so yeah,
that'd be interesting.
That's going to take up a lot of my time.
Yeah, no, well, it sounds like it will, because they're quite long, aren't they? They're quite long documentaries that you do.
Yeah. The Halloween one was an hour. And then the
that's a
Scream
long
one
time.
should have been less, but it was an hour and a half.
Right.
I don't know why. So
Oh, well.
we're trying to keep this one down to like maybe less than an hour. That's the goal. But at the end of the day, if somebody says, damn, I wonder if there's an all-inclusive Crow documentary out there, including the new movie, there will be one. Okay. Hopefully within the next like 6 months, it'll be out.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a lot of work.
Perfect. Well, I've got a link to your channel on the title, and it'll be in the description as well. So if anyone, again, if you're subscribed to me, you're probably subscribed to Lee. So click on Lee's page and you'll find a lot of cool Halloween content, horror content, you name it, it'll be there. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching again. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back!